Welcome to the Andy Ruther Show. Here is your host, Andy Ruther.
Welcome to the Andy Ruther Show. That is me. Ya boy. Sha boy. Ya boy. I don't know what I'm doing, guys, but I'm happy to be here. Episode 21 of the Andy Ruther Show. That's right. The Andy Ruther Show can legally drink alcohol. Big 2-1. You know, I was thinking before the show got started, I was thinking how it was the 21st episode and how it's insane that 21 is the legal drinking age in the United States. It's pretty insane. No, why does nobody talk about this? Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about how that's just too old. It was 18, they bumped it back to 21. Here's my point on this. You can legally drive a vehicle at 16, which is a weapon. That is a weapon. Cars are weapons. You can legally drive a car at 16, but you can't put a beverage in your body that contains alcohol until you're 21. That doesn't make any sense to me. And you can legally vote at 18. Again, a very big decision. You're deciding leaders, issues, all those important things. You can make that very important decision, which affects everything. You can do that at 18, but you can't put alcohol in your body until you're 21. You can legally be drafted and sent to fight a war at 18, but you can't have a beverage by the pool that contains alcohol. That's insane to me. Why is nobody talking about that? Why is nobody talking about that? I'm talking about that. The Andy Ruther Show, we cover it. Nobody wants to talk about it. I'm talking about it. It's ridiculous. That's all I'm saying, guys. I think a lot of you are going to be on board with me. I present what I call rational and practical points of view. The POV, as they say on social media. The POV. My POV is you can get in a car at 16. And I've seen a lot of you guys. You're bad drivers. You're a bad driver at that age. And I'm on pins and needles now, a little more. I got a child in the car with me. I got a little girl in the back trying to protect her. A lot of bad teenage drivers out there. You can get in the car, you can drive. You can't have an alcohol beverage. I just think it's weird. Doesn't make sense. Like I always say, make it make sense. Although if I follow the money, it probably does make sense. It probably has something to do with money and stuff that I don't really feel like investigating right now. But the show is 21. The Andy Ruther Show is officially 21 years of age. So I'm going to pour out a glass of water in my mouth. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some water in my mouth to that since I don't drink alcohol. Long gone are those days. I turned 21 in Spain, which was interesting, by the way, because I was already in a country where it was legal, studying abroad in college. 18 was the legal age. That's what it should be. I think we can all agree to that. 18 seems like a age. Again, if you can vote, if you can go to war, you should be able to drink alcohol. That should be the age, 18. But I turned 21 in Spain, where it was already legal, and I'd been drinking there legally for months. On top of that, I had fake IDs when I was here in the States, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, episode 21, here we are. Don't drink anymore, but now I have a new addiction. I wouldn't say I was addicted to alcohol, but I definitely had a binge drinking issue. As most of you know, All the stories, I know I've shared a lot of them on this podcast, other podcasts, social media, and I'm sure I'll share more. But I have an addictive personality. That's one of the reasons I stopped drinking alcohol. My new addiction is Chipotle. Yeah. I don't know what's worse, a alcohol binge addiction, an alcohol binge, or binging on Chipotle. Chipotle, Chipotle. I'm in a Chipotle stage. You know, Taylor Swift, doesn't she have her eras? She talks about her eras. I am in a Chipotle era, guys. I'm in a Chipotle era. In fact, not just me, Brittany. The Ruther house is in a Chipotle era. Let me explain. I've always liked Chipotle. It's always been decent, you know? Not the most healthy, but not the most unhealthy. You know, I mean, who doesn't love burritos? I love me some burritos. I could crush burritos 24/7. Of all the Mexican food, burritos are numero uno for this muchacho. I love me some burritos. So Chipotle opened about a year ago, right by where we live. Right by where we live in Mount Washington. It's a little suburb here of the city of Cincinnati. Anyway, a Chipotle opened up here, and I went the first week, and it was disgusting. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a mess, a total shit show. Went up there one night, wanted to get a burrito for me, a bowl for Brittany. It was just chaos. Opening week, the workers were terrible. The thing that you press the burrito with didn't even work, right? So it couldn't even press the burrito, which, whatever. But they had to make them without the pressing thing. I don't even know what that does, but apparently it does something. Regardless, they were low on food. The workers were terrible. It was not a good experience. In fact, it was a terrible experience. It was so bad that I didn't go there for about 10 months. And that shows how much a first impression at a restaurant can do, good or bad. You have a good impression, you go back. You have a bad impression, you don't go. That's how I am. You get a try, and if you don't show up, if you leave it on the table, if you are terrible, I'm not going back to your restaurant. I got options. There's plenty of options, right? It's terrible. So we didn't go back. We didn't mess with it. In fact, Brittany and I basically forgot about it. And she's a Chipotle girl as well. She's a white girl. Like, white girls love Chipotle. That's like, if you want to check basic white girl box, it's Chipotle. You could probably do it for white dudes too. I'm gonna start a social media brand. White dudes for Chipotle. It would literally be every white dude in the United States of America. So we didn't go. And then recently, like, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks ago, I said, let's get something by us. And somehow we discussed Chipotle. Went up there, completely different. New management, new workers. They had it together. It was efficient. I was very impressed. Gave me just a fat ass, just a fat steak burrito, right? And then I realized, like many restaurants, they got rewards points. And this is where they just suck you in. I am such a sucker for the rewards points. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm not really spending money because this will give me rewards towards a future free burrito, a future free chips and queso, chips and guac, a future free queso with whatever, quesadilla. That's how my mind works. They get you. Marketing, look, I work in that world as well, obviously. That's how they get you. The marketing's genius. So I'm like, oh, I can just scan this in the restaurant. Go then, go again the next week. And then let me put it this way. Like Brittany and I, we've eaten a lot of Chipotle in the last 7 to 8 weeks. We've had a lot of Chipotle. Like I can almost get a free burrito, which gives you like 1,600 points to get to that. So we've eaten a lot of Chipotle. We had it again last night. She has her go-to. I have my go-to. I'm addicted. I'm seriously addicted to Chipotle. And look, here's the thing. It's for the value. I'm gonna put it out there. Again, a guy who works in the restaurant industry right now, guy who works in social media, guy who works in marketing. I gotta hand it Chipotle. I gotta hand it to him. You get a lot of food for a decent price. Things are expensive. Inflation is real. I got a family now. I got to watch these things. Chipotle is reasonably priced, and it for the food, I think it's great. They got a great social media. They run a great social media. I'm always looking at their stuff for inspiration. They're very funny, very clever, witty, you name it. All those great things. And the food's pretty good and it's pretty priced out. It's pretty well priced out, I should say. So I'm addicted, guys. That's what I'm getting at. I'm addicted. Like a couple weeks we've had Chipotle like twice in a week. Like that's kind of reckless. But again, it's an easy go-to if we don't have food, if I don't have dinner ready. She comes home from work, she's tired, she's middle of her pregnancy, she doesn't want to cook anything. If I'm behind on it, Chipotle, it's right up the street. It's 5 minutes away. Give me them rewards points, son. So yeah, they won me back. They had a bad first experience. I go again. And you know what else I like Chipotle? You know what else? They don't have an option for tipping. It's not even an option. When you give them your card, they don't print out a thing for you to tip. There's not an option or a little line for you to leave a tip, which I love. And I wonder why do certain restaurants have the option for tipping? Certain restaurants don't. Chipotle, at least at this location, I assume it's a franchisee model. That's how they do it with franchises. They don't have that. So I don't even have to contemplate the idea of tipping homeboy for chips and guac, a chicken burrito, and a chicken bowl. I don't even have to contemplate that because we all know that's an issue now. That's an issue everywhere you go. Tipping. Every place wants a tip. What are we doing? How are we doing it? What places deserve tip? How much do you tip on carryout? How much do you tip on your to-go order? What is that versus when you're actually dining in the restaurant? I looked it up before the show. Standard tip is now 18% in the United States of America. That's the standard tip. 18%. But I also asked, I did carry out recently, and I asked the lady at the restaurant because I feel like nobody asks, right? I just straight up said to her, I said, who gets this tip? Because does anybody know? It's like one of those things. Nobody knows who is actually getting the tip. And as someone who worked in the food industry for years as a server, as a bartender, I want to know who's getting this money. So at this particular restaurant, she told me it's just going to me. I said, so the cook's not seeing any of this? Nope. Nobody else is seeing any of this. So my order is going, my tip is going, sorry, I'm knocking my phone over. My tip, she said, was just going directly to her. That's it. Just to her. Which made me not want to leave a big tip. Because what did you do? You just took my order. I literally popped into the restaurant. I placed my order, went next door, did a couple did some grocery shopping, picked up a few things, came back. You just took my order. That's all you did. $30 meal. Like, how much did you see? Are you worth 10%? Are you worth $3 for literally taking my order, which took what, 60 seconds? That's $3 of your time, $2 of your time. I don't know. It's getting out of hand, guys. It's getting out of control. We need to bring it down. Let's bring in the reins on these things. What are we doing? What are we doing? I don't know. I don't know what the standard protocol is for tipping when you're doing carry out, when you're doing pickup. It's very confusing. It's a confusing time now. And now all these presidential candidates want to say they don't want taxes on their tips, which I agree. I don't think tips should be taxed. It's a very confusing time. We need a seminar. Let me know What is the right protocol? I say 5%, right? On carryout, especially if nobody's getting it. Now, I'd feel better tipping more if I knew the cook was getting some of that. I want my boy in the back to see some of that. I want Javier in the back who's whipping up the food. Why hasn't he seen any of that? Instead, it goes to Mariah, the girl in the front. Mariah gets everything. Javier doesn't get anything. It just all goes to Mariah, the cute girl who's working up front. Give it to homeboy in the back. He's wearing a Joe Burrow jersey. Give it to him. Come on. That's all I'm saying. But I don't know. Above 10% seems like a lot. 10% should be the max. That's what I'm thinking. Especially if nobody else is seeing any besides the person who took the order. But you don't got to worry about that Chipotle. You just have them rewards points, son. I'm so stupid today. Look, I'll tell you what. I am geeked about the rewards points. Let's see where we're at right now. Let's see what we're at. Let's pull up the old app. I have 1,202 points. And that's in the last 7 to 8 weeks. So right now, 1,202 points. The best thing I can get is a kid's meal. Kid's meal for Isla, which she's not going to eat. And entree is 1,625 points. Okay. Almost there. I am almost there. What else is going on besides Chipotle and tipping? Oh, I know what I want to talk to you guys about. I started watching the documentary on the WWE and Vince McMahon. It's really good. Highly suggested. It's on Netflix. I believe it's a 6-part, 6-episode documentary on Vince McMahon called Mr. McMahon. It's very good. It's very good. I'm 4 episodes in. You know why I'm fascinated? I'm fascinated because I find the history of wrestling, in particular WWE, I can't even talk, the WWE, WWF, whatever it was called before that. The business end, I find it fascinating. And also, I was into wrestling as a very young kid because my brothers were. So I was into wrestling at like 4 and 5. My brothers are 3, 6, and 8 years older than me, my older brothers. So they were into it. I have vivid memories of my parents going out for dinner and us wrestling in the house, acting like we were doing our own wrestling, and us taking on characters that were characters in the WWF at the time. So I have those memories. I remember my mom giving us WWF action figures for Christmas. I believe I got the Great Santini, which I was like, who's this guy? I didn't get one of the cool, more known guys. But then I had a resurgence in high school. I had a huge resurgence in high school. My junior year, guys were into the WWF. I don't know if it was WWE at that point. I don't think so. But anyway, that was which era was that? That was called the Attitude Era. Great era for wrestling. The WWF Attitude Era was from 1997 to 2002. And that's when I got back into it because it was a reason for guys to get together and drink and just laugh. This was the Generation X era, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. There's so many things going on. So many things going on. This is when Vince McMahon was a prominent heel character. It's actually a great era to get back into. I loved all of it. I loved Stone Cold. Loved him. The Generation X stuff was great. Here's the thing about wrestling. I've never really dissed people who get into wrestling. I've made jokes, but I understand it. I understand it. Like, I understand how men can get into it. I get it. That's why I don't really diss it that much. I might make some jokes. I make jokes about everything, though, jokes about things I like. Is there really a difference between the WWE and Dancing with the Stars or Vanderpump Rules or A Real Housewives? I would fully argue no. It's a soap opera, it's drama, it's scripted. I'd even argue wrestling's better because it has more interesting storylines. I would argue that. And it got pretty wild, and the documentary is great because it details all that, and the business end is fascinating. I'm fascinated by that. It's a multi-billion dollar industry that Vince McMahon created, and he was cutthroat, and he's no longer around because of all these scandals, and I think they're just scratching the surface, to be fully honest, in the documentary. I do wonder how wild it really was behind the scenes. I feel like this is still kind of a rosy view, right? Because I just know I bet things were way worse than they presented. But it's really fascinating. And it's still so popular. It's it couldn't have been more popular. And wrestlers, I was having this discussion with Brittany because she watched the first 2 episodes with me. And I said to her, I said, who is the biggest wrestler of our lifetime? As far as the most famous person known for wrestling. And Brittany's about 7.5 years younger than me. So that matters in this context because we're coming from different angles. She thought it was Hulk Hogan, which I thought was interesting because she's a girl in her mid 30s who never watched wrestling, didn't grow up caring about it, but that's the guy she really knew. Again, known for wrestling. I know Hulk Hogan did other things. I know he did acting. I know he was in some TV shows, movies. He's a personality, obviously, all that. But like strictly wrestling, who's the biggest guy in your lifetime? I asked her. And she said Hulk Hogan. And I was debating myself. I was like, well, is it? Is it Hulk? Now, The Rock is huge. But The Rock at this point he is a global actor, right? Like when I look at The Rock now, I actually don't think of wrestling. I probably should because I watched The Rock blow up during that Attitude Era. He was so much fun. I enjoyed it when I was in high school. It was great. My junior, senior year, guys would get together for the pay-per-view. Guys would go drink in someone's basement and just be idiot 17, 18-year-old kids, right? That's what we did. I watched The Rock. I love The Rock, but I don't think about him as a wrestler now when I see him in movies. And maybe that's just me. Maybe a lot of people do. I see The Rock and I don't instantly think wrestler. When I see Hulk Hogan, I instantly think wrestler. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin, who hasn't really done much outside wrestling, and I'm probably wrong in that, but I think wrestler, but I don't think wrestler as much as Hulk Hogan. When I look at Hulk Hogan, I just think you were an icon. You still are an icon. It's all for wrestling. That's all I think of when I see Hulk Hogan. Wrestling. And that's kind of what Brittany and I were discussing and deciding who's the biggest wrestler of our lifetime. Now, I know wrestling people would argue with me, and that's fine. You guys know more about it. I'm just saying, from my point of view, it's Hulk Hogan, just because he's a pure wrestler. And I'm sure you could argue a ton of other people. And I don't even know. Like, I'd be curious from somebody who follows wrestling, who's an avid watcher. I wonder what they'd say. But it's so popular. So I have some wild numbers that would probably blow some people's minds. Here's one. The WWE is currently the 7th most subscribed channel on YouTube in the world. In the world, it's number 7. The WWE has over 100 million YouTube subscribers. That just puts in context how popular it is. Here's something wild. I went to look. The WWE has more YouTube subscribers than the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and FIFA combined. And it trounces those four way more than those four combined. In fact, the WWE is the second most followed sports brand on all social channels. Second most. It's only topped by the UEFA Champions League. It's only topped by that, which is pretty crazy, right? That's how popular wrestling is. I don't think people realize it until you look at those numbers. Those are some mind-blowing numbers. That's why it's a multi-billion-dollar business. And that's why I find the documentary so interesting to see where wrestling was in the late 70s, the early 80s, and then what Vince McMahon did and what he accomplished over this time. Now, a lot of it's pretty wild. And I think when you get to that level to become a billionaire, you have to do a lot of shady, not good things. I don't think you become a billionaire by being good. I just don't. I think every billionaire has some serious skeletons in their closet. I don't know how you get to become a billionaire without, in a way, being morally bankrupt, for lack of a better term. I'm not saying all billionaires are bad, and I'm not saying every billionaire is evil. I think billionaires, probably a fair amount of them, have done great things for society. They've achieved great advances that have helped millions or billions of people. I think all that's true, but I don't think you get to that point without doing some shady shit. That's all I'm saying, guys. That's all I'm saying. And Vince McMahon, if you watch the documentary, it kind of proves my point. Like, Vince McMahon got to this level by just being so cutthroat and doing whatever it took. And it's pretty impressive. Again, if you look at the breakdown of the current WWE, I have it right in front of me. And what's crazy is it's very diverse. If you break down the age group, no surprise, 18 to 34 is 37%. 35 to 49 is 31. So 68% of their audience is 18 to 49. Ethnicity, white 48%, black 19%, Hispanic 28%. It's pretty diverse. And even gender surprised me. It's 68% male, 32% female. 3 out of every 10 WWE fans is a woman, which in a way shouldn't surprise me. My grandmother loved wrestling. My mom's mom, my grandmother on my mom's side loved wrestling, right? And that's back in the 80s. So it can definitely attract females. I remember her having it on the TV, my mom, who grew up in the country out in the farm. She loved it. And obviously it's evolved over the ages. And when I was in high school, that's when it started getting really risque. And they were really marketing sex appeal with those women. That's probably one of the reasons I started getting into it as well. It was so machismo, testosterone driven, but then you added the women fighting in their bras and panties, and it got just really risque during that Attitude Era. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't watched it in so long, but I just know, again, I'm presenting you guys the numbers. It shows how big of a global brand the WWE is, and it's not stopping. Netflix just signed a massive, massive deal with the WWE. It's still just extremely popular, and you have other wrestling leagues or federations, I don't even know what they're called, that are still also popular. And they're nuts, dude. That's the thing. When people say it's fake, I would counter, go talk to a wrestler. I don't think their injuries are there's nothing fake about that. Those guys put their bodies through hell. That's not fake. I'll never forget meeting Mick Foley, wrestler Mick Foley, at the Comedy Store like 15 years ago. Nicest guy, by the way. I'll never forget that. I was hosting a comedy show and he asked me to lower the mic stand before I brought him up because he couldn't even bend over. That's what I'm saying. It's not fake. His back was so messed up from all those years of wrestling that he couldn't bend over to lower the mic stand. Could not have been a nicer guy, by the way. He was a late edition add-on to our show. He asked if he could do time and just patiently waited throughout the show to get his stage time. And again, it shows how big wrestlers were. He wasn't advertised. It was the belly room, so the small room upstairs at the Comedy Store. And after the show, countless people waited just to get a picture with him, just to get an autograph with him. I mean, it's huge. And that's why I find the documentary so interesting. Again, I'm not the biggest wrestler guy. I've told you guys right now my history, but I find it all so fascinating from a business perspective. And Vince McMahon, wow. Makes you wonder. Again, how do you get to be a billionaire? You do some shady shit. That's all I'm saying. A lot of times you're not a good person. You're breaking the law. Your morals are usually questionable. I bet if you went into any billionaire's history, they have some serious skeletons. Everybody got skeletons, for the record. Everybody has some things in their history. But billionaires, come on. And that's what we're seeing with Diddy, to be honest. We're seeing that with Diddy. And even more, it keeps coming out with Diddy. And it keeps getting wilder and wilder. And you wonder when it's going to end with Diddy. There's this latest report, which I believe was yesterday. He's being accused. 120 people are coming out against him in a new lawsuit. It's the same lawyer who represented the women against Deshaun Watson, Tony Busby. This guy's raking it in, huh? I got a clip queued up, I think. This is what Tony Busby said about the latest pending lawsuit against Diddy.
Names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock you. These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. And I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are.
It makes you wonder, man. Like, how wild was that shit? How wild was everything? Right? It makes you wonder. Guys, this new information, this new pending lawsuit, he's representing 120 accusers, which are split by gender. So men, women, boys, girls, and it includes 25 minors. You know, this stuff is next level at this point. A boy as young as 9 years old. allegedly. This guy, Tony Busby, the lawyer for the lawsuit, says half of the alleged victims are male, and they alleged sexual assaults took place across different states, with the majority in New York, California, Georgia, and Florida, beginning as early as 1991, 33 years ago. Diddy's 54. He would have been 21. You've been doing this stuff for 30 years? Busby claimed they took place at Combs' annual white parties. I've heard a lot about that. Hotels and many other places, with 25 of the accusers being minors, which I just said. And again, the youngest, just 9. There was a common theme on all this. Many of the accusers claimed they were drugged with allegations of horse tranquilizers being found in their system after the parties they had attended. This is very Bill Cosby-esque. It's like Bill Cosby on steroids, though. You have men, you have women, you have boys, you have girls. And that clip I just played is kind of interesting because he's saying a lot of people saw this. A lot of people engaged in this. And we keep hearing this. And I'll believe it when I see it. We heard the same thing about Jeffrey Epstein. We're never going to see that list of people who are on the island. We'll never know what actually happened. We'll never know. And I think that's the same thing with this Diddy stuff. I don't think we're ever going to fully know to the level. But it's all disgusting. And here's the thing. You just can't get away with this stuff in 2024 with technology and with social media. That's what I find fascinating about all this. Someone like Diddy, again, another billionaire, I believe he's a billionaire, or he's damn near it. I think these people just feel like they are invincible. And it sounds like he had been doing this for so long, he just didn't think anything would happen, which is crazy if you think about it. This many people were quiet for this many years. All these years, Diddy's white parties were infamous. You heard about it all the time. All these years. Nobody said anything because of fear. How many big name celebrities, big name politicians, world leaders, how many of these people were involved? Now, this is just going to open up a million conspiracies. It's like conspiracy upon conspiracy, but it doesn't, let me put it this way. It doesn't help the conspiracies about just Hollywood people being evil. And I'm not saying they all are. I'm not saying that, but it doesn't help is what I am saying. I lived in Los Angeles. Now, I wasn't going to Diddy parties. I wasn't that. I was around circles, though. I was around enough people. None of this really surprises me. And I've said that. Like, there wouldn't be anything that I'd be like, especially since we know everything now, right? And if you look at history, look at the history. Look at what the ancient Greeks used to do with, little boys. Like my point is, it's in a weird way, it's nothing new. I'm not justifying it by any means. Definitely not justifying it. But you've seen these things. History repeats itself, as we know. But I can't get enough. I know you guys are probably sick of me talking about this. I can't get enough. I'm sorry. It's fascinating. Oh, I want to know. I want to know who those names are, who was attending, who was in the middle of freak-offs. Those people got to be shitting themselves. All this stuff is coming out. But in the end of the day, does it really matter? That's what I always say. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? Bill Cosby is free right now. He literally served some jail time and he's free now. Does it really matter? Does the Cosby Show still air? I assume it still airs somewhere. Are you going to stop listening to Diddy music? That's the question. Diddy's been around for a long time. He's produced or performed a lot of his own music for about 30 years. Like when the Michael Jackson documentary came out on HBO, I couldn't listen to Michael Jackson's music for a minute. But even that like wears off. I'm going to a wedding reception on Saturday. If Billie Jean is played, I'm probably dancing. I'm not holding a picket against Michael Jackson. And conversely, if they play Mo Money, Mo Problems, I'm probably dancing. Now, am I thinking about Diddy doing wild stuff? Yeah. But I'm still probably dancing. What's crazy is everyone knew all these years and everyone magically kept quiet. That's what's so crazy to me that it was so shut down. There were no cracks in this. Now, people have said recently, Cat Williams in the last year was saying a lot of this stuff when he went on Shannon Sharp's show. $120. That's a lot. Young children, young girls, young boys. He is a monster. There's no other way to put it. That is evil. I do believe in that. I think good and evil for sure are a thing. And if all these things are true, that's just pure evil. You're a sick and evil person. $50 gonna have a field day with this, by the way. He has been. 50 he's been hilarious about all this Diddy stuff. But again, how much are we gonna find out, guys? How much are they gonna actually leak? I don't know. He's gonna have a wild documentary, right? I'm talking about the Vince McMahon documentary. I mean, you just click on these stories. They're just nonstop. This is one from 3 hours ago. It says Sean Diddy Combs' A-list party guest knew when to leave before things took a turn. Report. Well, then that's interesting too. If you knew he was diddling kids and you kept your mouth shut, you're also a piece of shit. Dude, if you knew he was doing that type of thing or date raping girls, putting horse tranquilizers in their drinks, and you knew, I'm not trying to, take a moral, like I'm standing on a soapbox here. But I mean, just, I don't know. According to a new report, what happened before 2 a.m. pales in comparison to what happened at 5 a.m., a source told Us Weekly. Okay, take that with a grain of salt. The insider claims to have attended one of the infamous soirees themselves, saying they were known to be wild. Anything went at those parties. According to another source who allegedly wrangled guests for Diddy's white parties between 2006 and 2011, many A-listers cut out before things took a turn between 2 and 3 a.m. Girls would start to lose their clothes. Okay, that's nothing insane. Claimed the insider, there was a signal for people to leave. The insider alleged that drugs emerged at that time, with the magazine reporting that the ensuing benders lasted until 7 a.m. A third source claimed sex workers would do whatever you wanted. Okay, again, like to me, like that's there's a difference between that and raping children. There's a huge difference. But this is all just, it's just taking on a life of its own every single day. And look forward to talking about it every single week. We're just going to change the name of this podcast to The Diddy Files with Andy Ruther. I'm sorry if you guys are getting sick of this. And you can message me and say, Ruther, stop it. We know it. We know you are obsessed with this Diddy stuff. Can't stop. Won't stop. We talking Diddy for life. Yeah. Andy Ruther Show. Diddy Files. Yeah, take that. Yeah, bad boy. Yeah, take that. Well, you guys can call in with your own opinion. We do have a hotline here, I believe. What is the hotline number? That is the question. Here it is, 859-935-0078. Andy Ruther Show hotline. Give it a ring. Again, 859-935-0078 is the hotline number. And I can be followed on all social at Andy Ruther. I will be dropping a new video on YouTube on Friday, and the plan is new content every single Friday. That's right. On all socials, but most importantly, the long versions will always be on YouTube. So I've been working on videos. Shout out to my boy Dougie Fresh. Been doing videos together, and we're going to keep producing more videos. So new video will be out every Friday. Find out all the weird, wild stuff that I'm doing. And maybe I'll be at a Diddy white party. Psych. They're not happening because he's in jail. So check that out. All right, guys, that is the show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And we'll be back next week. All right. Much love.